All right, it's time for us to proceed. Okay, I hope everybody enjoyed their break. How is everyone doing? Everybody still on mute? Good, 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 good. Okay, so we were able to look at a few things. Do we have any questions pending? Yes.
Are you able to maybe provide a bit of explanation on how the variables are kind of placed within memory?
Okay, so how are the variables placed within memory? Interesting. So to be candid with you, I think the variables are placed within memory randomly. It depends on the space that is available because it's just a random process. So what happens is the actual name that is given to a memory location is in hexadecimal format. So it's AF something something something, and those names. Okay, so let's put it this way. So right now, let's go ahead and start with a new variable. Let me call this price. So the price in here, I'm going to say let the price be 99.99. Okay. Technically, what happens is that 99.99 gets taken and saved in the memory to be something like x12397, something like that, right? Let me not say x because there's no x in there. It should be a or b because it's looking at hexadecimal. So that's a location in memory that is going to go in there and save that value. Thing is, for us human beings, it's very difficult for us to remember that name of the memory location in hexadecimal format. So Python interpreter gives us an option to be able to give our own names that we can easily understand. So what happens is in the, let's go ahead and get the annotator here. In the memory, the program just randomly goes in there. Hey, this guy wanted an integer. Let me give it this space. Because again, the memory gets assigned randomly. It goes in the first place that it sees space to be able to fit the value in there. It grabs that, comes back to you and puts that value in there. But now you have added that tag on there to say this is the price tag. Or in this case, well, tag is not a good word in here. This is the price bucket. Anytime you call for price, it knows that price refers to that. Just like we have URLs that we use for our websites. The URLs are written in IP address format, which is quad notation for 8 quads notation, octet quad. 1.6.8.3.2, which nobody will ever remember. All they remember is yahoo.com. So it translates those for us to be able to use. Does that help? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so what I was doing was like if we assign um price another value. Yeah, I see that the not that I see, I'm thinking that the new value replaces.
That is exactly correct. So right now, what happens is what price is just a bucket. So you have a bucket, and in here, you're going to call that price, right? In that bucket, I have decided that I have, for instance, opened my account and it's 99.99 in there. Okay, expressions is what we're going to talk about next. Sorry about that. That's a period. That's not a column. And when we talk about expressions, you see that just because we have that price as 99 doesn't mean we cannot increase or change it. We can go ahead and say, hey, price equal to 50. Now, if I go ahead and print price, what should I have?
So I see 50, and the memory is different.
Yes, so I created that memory location and called it price. After the first line is executed, it says that 99.99 is in there. But then I go back and decide that, hey, I'm going to assign something else in its place. So what happens now is that gets taken out, and now I have 50 in there. So that's the next thing that happens in the next line. Now I want to print the value in price. So I'm going to end up printing 50.
50.
Right? So let
But
me go ahead and
that
try that.
that does not follow that ripple thing, right, Prof?
Okay, so very good question if it does not follow that ripple. So two things we mentioned. We said there are two types of statements: an assignment statement that does not return an output, and then an expression that returns an output. This first one is an assignment statement. So nothing is going to be returned. We are just assigning this value in this variable. And then before you know it, somebody came back and changed the value inside that variable. But now when we get to the expression, we need to return a value. And the value we return is the 50. Does that make sense? Does that help?
Yeah, it has, but I would expect that it would first read the value 99.99,
Yeah,
then print it or execute it, then loop, right? And see that there's another price value of 50, then print it. Since we are not giving any operators, whether add or do this, we are just assigning values, but we are giving the instructions in this order, print it, and that's where it's taking me up now.
excellent, excellent. So what happens is the first time, let me get the yellow. When we go ahead and assign it, we did not print. We just assigned it, and because it's an assignment operator,
Oh,
it does not output. But if I copy this print and put it here,
yes,
then
okay.
I'm going to be able to see that 99.99 before I see 50.
Makes sense, yeah.
Okay. Excellent, excellent. Good questions. I like those questions. And it's a very good segue to the next part that we actually have to talk about. Okay. So let's jump in. And I'm going to refresh this page because I made some changes to the notes so that it can be reflected. I had to move that. Okay, so let's jump up there again. What other questions do we have? So we've talked about the ripple, we talked about assignment statements, expression statements. We went on our break, and very important to remember, beautiful is better than ugly. Tomorrow we're gonna have, or sorry, the next class we're going to have another one of those Zen of Python quotes in there. But yes.
No,
Now,
I just printed that out and I was reading. It's the I think those are very careful thoughts that are good.
I love them. I don't think it only relates to Python.
Exactly.
It relates to real life. That's how you just make your life simple. I don't want anybody to imply anything. Just explain yourself. Let's carry on.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's really, really good. I love it very much. Yeah. Awesome. So let's carry on again. We had to talk about expressions. We started looking at some expressions. What is an expression? An expression is a combination of values, variables, operators. But guess what? Just a value itself could be an expression. Just a variable itself could be an expression, like that mango that we talked about. All of them by themselves could be expressions. But one thing we have not yet talked about is operators. Okay? So we haven't talked about operators yet. So might as well jump in and talk about them. What are operators? Operators let you perform certain operations on your variables, and their values. Okay, you can use just values or you could use variables. Most of the time, variables are better because you can monitor and keep track of them throughout your life cycle. So there are two main types of operators in Python: arithmetic operators and assignment operators. There are a bunch of them. You don't need to remember all of them. You can always research, but obviously arithmetic, everybody is familiar with addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. The few that you're not very familiar with is the modulus. The modulus is going to perform division, but it returns only the remainder. So for instance, if you have 15 divided by 2, only the remainder is going to only the remainder is going to be outputted. Okay, another very important formula, another very important operator is the quotient operator, or in here it's called the floor division. So it's going to perform that division, but it's going to give you only the whole number. It's not going to give you the remainder. Okay, so sometimes you're only interested in the whole number. Maybe you want to check how many $1 bills are in a certain number, or how many cents, or how many dimes, or how many pennies are in a certain number, or in your change. When you want to calculate change, you can use floor and modulus to get those. For exponents, you just use the multiplication twice, and there's also other ones for I think there's division. Yeah, we already talked about division. But yeah, these are the basic arithmetic operators. We also have logical operators, which I'm not going to talk about here. Logical operators are when you compare and then you compare with or. So in that case, you use something like this. But again, we talked about PEMDAS, which is BODMAS. Since we are in the United States of America, we get to talk about PEMDAS, which is parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, in that order. Or BODMAS, right? BODMAS is brackets of, which is multiplication, I believe. Division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction. So yeah, that's what BODMAS or PEMDAS. I'm definitely going to update that slide.
Definitely do our African brothers a favor there.
Definitely. When I say that to my learners, they're like, "What is BODMAS?" I'm like, "You guys need to research that, and then they can come back to me and tell me the next day." But yeah, so now I'm doing it on the flip side. But for our assignment operators, right? Equal to sign is an assignment operator. One thing that you have to remember here is the equal to sign is different from two equal to signs. One is an assignment operator, one is an equality operator. We'll talk about that in next week. Definitely we'll talk about that. And sometimes you see code that has plus equal to. What they're saying here is a plus equal to 10 means take the value of a, add 10 to it, and assign it back to a. So pretty much it means a equal to a plus 10, and so on and so forth. Right now, you will not be used to this, but eventually after practicing, after seeing it a few times, it will become second nature to you. When you see that, there's also two ways you can do it. You can add it before, or you can add it after. All right. So question, Aaron.
So I wasn't sure what is the advantage of doing the short form there, right? Because when I looked at it, I was like, these guys are just making things difficult, right? Is it that it makes the code to run faster? What is the advantage?
Very good. It doesn't make the code run faster or anything. Most people don't like it. Most people dislike it. But it depends. When you have a longer expression, then it becomes easier for you to write it that way. But for readability purposes, you probably don't want to do that. So again, you just want to avoid repetition. In this case, we are using A and A, so it might sound easy or it might look easy. But if you had a long name for a variable, maybe 5 letters, 10 letters, you don't want to write 10 letters and equal to 10 letters, and then you do your computation. You probably just want to write it once and know that it's the same thing that you're looking at.
Hmm. So if you're looking at let's say software engineers or whatever you call them, I don't know, developers, I don't know. This is
Yeah.
not my industry. I have no clue. Um,
Yes, yes. So again,
and somebody has it, the short form.
yes.
Does it tell you that that guy is more experienced compared to the other guy that does the long way?
No, it just depends on personal preference, I think, or
Mhm.
what the team actually does, And there's something known as when you hear that a hacker hacked into a software and they were able to see their signature, it will actually build your own signature, your programming, the way you code, your signature of coding. If somebody
Mhm.
knows that you always use this shortcut, when they see that in the code, they know, you're definitely the one that wrote it. So things like that build up your pattern, your signature of writing code, what kind of functions you like using, what functions you don't like using, how you use your code, if you add comments and all those subtle things on there. But personally, I don't mind using it. I don't use it rarely, Obviously, there's also something known as what's the right way of calling this word? Um, I hate it when it evades me. After you write your code, you might want to come back and refactor it. So definitely you don't write your code once and for all. You write it once, you come back and say, how else can I make it more efficient? How can I make it look cleaner, neater, prettier, faster, and easier to understand? That's known as refactoring. So you're done writing the code, it executes just perfectly fine, but you come back and refactor it. Maybe you want to make it look shorter, as instead of having 100 lines of code, maybe make it 50 to make
Mhm.
sure that it fits on the screen. So all of those things you might want to do it to refactor your code. Does that help?
Yeah, actually, that's what I write any fancy stuff. But if I if I do my 2 through lines of code, I always do the long way, and then I come back and
And
you know,
refactor it.
yes.
Yes, yes, definitely, definitely. Excellent, excellent. So yes, that's what we get here when we look at all these operators. So let me go ahead and share with you some operations. Let's see if we can make sense of that. Here we did that, we did not execute it. So we had 50. I can go ahead and say price equal to price plus, let's put a space, 25. And now I want to be able to print out what the price is. Price is what I want. Okay, so if I do that, what should I have for the price?
75.
75 is true, but I could have done it in a short form and say price plus equal to 25. Let me put a space in there. Now, what do I have for the price?
Still 75.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
gonna be the same thing.
Yes.
Okay, so at this point in time, we have already updated that value,
It's
right?
gonna be
Oh,
100.
100.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
man.
yeah, it's gonna be 75 plus 25.
Yes, it's going to be
Yeah.
75 plus 25. So yeah, we should
Yeah,
have 100 in this
That was
case.
tricky.
There
yeah,
you go. Sounds good.
yeah.
So what if I go ahead and say print price plus price? What should I have?
Print price.
200.
200.
That is
Yeah.
exactly correct. 200 it is. Sounds good.
Hmm.
Because right now price is 100, but
Mhm.
I'm printing price, adding it together, and then you have that.
So if you print price, or if you, oh boy, no, it's gonna be complicated. Price,
Price.
no, price minus. Sorry, no, I'm not gonna bring that in.
That's
Let's
exactly what I
continue.
was actually thinking. What if I went ahead and said 3 times price divided by 2, or let's say divided by and maybe plus 20. What do we get?
Uh,
30.
That bot math thing comes in,
Yeah.
right?
There you go. That's where the
Oh.
problem is. So we need to now start figuring out which one gets executed first. This definitely gets executed last. So we need to do
Yeah.
this first. But are we going to multiply before we divide? Or are we going to divide before we multiply?
Multiply before divide.
So if we multiply, we end up with 600.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, 300 divided by 10.
So no, price is 200 right now, right?
Price plus price is 200.
Okay, price is 100, yeah.
Yes.
3. So it's 30 plus 20.
So we should have 50, right?
Yeah.
Let's figure it out.
No. 3 times 200 is.
Remember, price is 100.
Price is still 100.
Ah. No matter worry.
So price is 100 right now. Because we had 100 plus 100 is 200.
Yes.
Okay. So let's try that. 50 it is.
Yeah.
But now we are having 50.0. Why is it 50.0?
Because of the division, right? It's getting us into float.
Exactly. When we divide, we get a float. So if I was to go ahead and say this was the answer and assign that in there and decide that I wanted to print the answer and also find out what data type the answer is. If I can type that, then I should be able to print 50.0 and float. So execute that. That's what we get. Question, Nigel.
Yes, Prof. You see where we said price was equals 200, right? I have an issue with that because at no point did we assign price equals 200. All we did was did a computative, that price plus price equals 200. But at no point did we assign price equals 200. So how come when we're doing the computation now, price became 200 when we had not assigned it to be 200?
Very good, very good. So we started off with assigning price to 99.9. Immediately we changed it to 50. We printed 50. We added 25 to that 50. We ended up with 75. Right here, we did an assignment, additional assignment. I think I've forgotten the right terminology for this. If it's increment assignment.
Increment.
Yeah.
By 25.
So we increased by 25 and we ended up with 100. We are assigning it automatically here to price. So price is now 100, as you can see when we print it.
Yes.
But on line 32, line 32 is just adding 100 and 100. So price is still 100, but we are printing an addition of price and price.
Okay.
So right here, price is still 100.
Okay. All right, it makes sense now. Okay, yeah, because I was looking at it, and at no point did we assign price to be 200. So I was getting confused. But I get it now. Thank you.
Exactly. Excellent. Excellent. So at this point, we can go ahead and say maybe we want to figure out if our price is still at 100. I can go ahead and write a comment and say at this point, price is 100. This line of code is not going to get executed because that's a comment. It starts with an not an ampersand, a pound, a hashtag. But I can go ahead and also create a new variable and say tax. I'm not sure what the tax is where you are, but let's say it's 3%. Okay. If the tax is 3%, then the total should be equal to the price times the tax, right? And then we can go ahead and print. Let's try to be nice and say the total is. So we print that string, and then we go ahead and print the total. You'll notice here that this print is not going to work because I use uppercase, so I should change it to lowercase. Everybody okay?
Yeah.
So what do we think we're going to have in this case?
So
It's
we
about $30, 34. Wait, 3% of that. Maybe about $3. So
yeah, my computation looks like it's first of all wrong. So this is total tax. Should make it lowercase. And now my real total will be equal to price plus tax. Right?
Yeah, that thing that looks better. Okay.
Yeah.
So in order for me to get the tax for 100 is 3%, so that's going to be $3 maybe. And then now my total would be
$103.
103. So let's print that out. 103. Looks good.
Yeah.
Awesome. So that's how you go about creating a small calculator to do anything. But everything so far is really fixed. You know, we don't really have much to do. We are always going to have our tax to be this, and we're always going to have our price to be 100. Okay, but that's totally
Prof,
fine. Yes.
we is it possible that you see where we're saying print the total is, could we pass the value of total or that variable total in that statement directly?
Very good question. Did everybody get that? So can we have this in here rather than having print twice? What do you guys think? Does anybody have an idea?
Yeah, the F string should give you that. I use the F string to put that on the same line.
Very good. So you can use the F string. There are many ways we can do it. That's why I keep telling you guys, understand that coding is a creative art. We can all go different routes to get to a destination. So there are many ways you can get to it. I'll definitely get to that. Since today, this is definitely outside the scope of our objectives today. I don't want to confuse you, but you can definitely use a lot of ways to get that. You know, just by using a comma, that should be totally fine as well. It's going to be able to append that. But if you execute that, you can see that the total is that. But I didn't want to write it that way because you get confused what's going on. Sounds good? So with the print, you can concatenate using a comma, and it's totally fine. Normally, if I use a plus, it's going to be a problem because the first part is a string, the second part is a float, as we already know. So it's telling you here that the type of error is you can only concatenate string to a string, not to a float. So if I wanted to do that, what I'll need to do is maybe change this to string by putting it in quotes. So this is known as casting.
Yeah.
Right. So let me go ahead and add a comment in there. Casting. Think about you breaking your arm or breaking your leg, which is what has happened here. Our code has broken. In order for us to fix it, we need to cast it. We put a cast around it. So we put a cast, which is a string cast, the cement cast in this case, around it. And if we execute it, it should be okay. But now we have not changed total. Total is there. We just changed it to a string. But Python is really user friendly. That's why it says Python is easy to write because you don't need all of that. You don't even need the F string. You just use a comma and everything looks just fine. So again, those are what, 2, 3 different ways of writing it. You know, it's totally fine using it whichever way, depending on how you want to do it. If you're in a rush, do it the way you know how to do it. When you have time, come back and refactor your code and you're good.
Prof, I know maybe I'm driving a little bit out of
That's
the
fine.
scope, but
Yeah.
can you just show me that F string? Because we're not gonna meet until Saturday, right? I want to really be playing with a lot of these things.
Okay, so
Everything is on fire.
so F string again, F means format, right? If you're going to do print and I want to print say a particular string, and in this case I would say the total is, let me comment this one out. The total is, and then I can go ahead and put that value in there. If I want the F string, I have to start with an F in the front. And I believe I should use one quote.
Yeah, both actually work.
Okay. And one here total. Cannot spell. So what it does there is it's going to add total in there wherever it sees that value. Oops, obviously I did not. Even worse.
You're missing the apostrophe at the end of the total after the curly bracket.
Yep, right there. Awesome. So yes, now this is going to work. I personally don't like that. This is known as interpolation. So interpolation is a way that you can add content in there. So using these curly braces, it tells you that, hey, just grab that and interpolate it in there, you know. But that's how you go ahead and do the F string. So I can also go ahead and say, rather than doing the total, I could say the mangoes are, or let's say the mango is, and then I can go ahead and put in mango. Remember we defined mango earlier. If I print that out, it gives me a total and the mango. I can do that for all of these variables that we've looked at before. Okay. So the same with cost. I can pull the cost, new cost, and so on. All I have to do is just put in the variable in quotes, and I should be good. Maybe I should change the definition so it's correct. Cost is 1,000. I need a newer cost. Go ahead and do newer cost as well, and so on.
So at one time, does it forget that, you know, you stored something in that memory? We have been storing so many things.
I know, right? I know. Remember that first day we talked about, you know, the primary memory and the secondary memory. The primary memory, once you turn off your computer or you shut down that program, it forgets everything. But the one that's going to be remembered is what's in the hard drive, which is the secondary memory. That's why if you're typing a Word document and your computer goes off, everything that you typed was going to the primary memory and it wipes away when there's no power, except you save it. When you save it, you're now moving it to the hard drive, the secondary memory. So if we have not saved this, then every time it gets shut down, we're going to lose that. But once we start running the application again, it cleans out the memory and starts with a new memory. But as long as this is still running, it's going to remember that value.
Nice.
So now you're all thinking like you're inside that computer. I like that. That's excellent. Nigel, question.
Is there anything you can do for your system to instead of having in a temporary memory, and that's to make it permanent, right? So that way, let's say all these codes you're putting there right now, if you turn it off, right? If for some reason your computer goes off, or you turn it back on, you'll start from scratch, right? Now, my question, is there a way where should anything happen, you turn it off, next time you come back, you will remember all the inputs that you put?
Yes, definitely there's a way. So right now what I need to do is just go ahead and rename this notebook to something better. Let's say day 2. I've renamed it. Now it says day 2. I save it. Everything is going to be in there. If I close it and we open day 2, it has everything that we had before. So now I've saved it in the secondary memory, in the hard drive of the cloud, not on my hard drive. If I want it on my hard drive, then I'll have to come in and download it. If I want to share it, then I'll have to go in and do file, save as, where is it? Never mind. Export. If I want to send it as a PDF or an HTML document, I can go ahead and do that. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
So for a system like, OneNote, it doesn't have a save button. When you write on it, it saves like right away. It persists, right? Is
Yes.
it just a script running in the back end with Command S or Control S, like keep refreshing?
Yes, definitely, because Control S is us doing input. You can
Yeah.
set it up so that the input is automatic, and then you just go ahead to your preferences and say, after every 5 minutes, save it. After every 10 minutes, save it.
Yeah.
But that's what auto save is about. Way back when computers just started, that was not something that was possible because there was no JavaScript that was creating that well before. But with JavaScript now, you can set up and synchronous JavaScript to be running and say, hey, we save this every 5-10 minutes or whatever. So that definitely helps us out a lot, not to be losing a lot of information.
Which is the beauty of automation, trying to solve the problem of things you do frequently and just outsource that to something.
Exactly.
Do it for you.
Very good, very good. So we have 5 more minutes. Let's see if I can jump in and get this last part taken care of in the next 5 minutes. We don't have much else. I didn't realize we're going to be having so much fun. I knew we were going to have fun, but not this much. All right, so everything looks good, but everything is boring. As much as it's fun, it's boring. We need to make it dynamic. We need to have users to input stuff and play around with our code, right? So what do? We've talked about print. We've talked about type. The third function I want to introduce to you guys is the input function. Okay? When you type input function, you're asking the user to enter something. Whatever you enter in this case is going to be saved in this variable. Remember, we talked about variable. So we are going to say, hey, save a space for me in memory. I want the user to enter something. Whatever they enter, go save it in that place in memory. So they enter stuff. They type in some silly stuff. That gets saved in the input, INP. When you go ahead and print INP, you get exactly what they would. But it is better for you to give a prompt. A prompt, again, is some kind of question that you're asking the user, whatever. You're directing the user, prompting them, like enter your name or enter your age or enter your date of birth. Whatever they enter, in this case, you're asking for a name. That name gets entered and gets saved in this variable called name. They have entered their name Chuck. Now you print the name, it prints out Chuck. So now our program is becoming more interactive. Okay. But remember that everything that you get from the user is saved as a string. So if we ask them, for instance, in this case, what is the speed of a swallow that's not carrying anything? Then we go ahead and ask them, they input that speed. We need to be able to convert that speed, which the speed is the input of whatever they entered, to an integer. When we convert it to an integer, now we can go ahead and use it in our calculation. So whatever you always get from the user is going to be a string. Now you need to use that casting to convert it to an integer. Does that make sense to everyone?
So that conversion is again depending on what you're asking for from the end user,
Exactly.
right? Okay.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So let's try an example given what we're just looking at, right? So we were asking them to enter, or we have a tax and we have a price. Let's go ahead and change this. We said at this point the price is 100. Let's go ahead and ask for the user to enter the price. Ask user to enter price. So ask the user to enter the price. We're going to say price is equal to, we use that input function. If we use that input function, it's just going to prompt without telling you anything. So now our price is not going to be 100 again. So remember this value. Let's go ahead and press play. It just asks us without prompting. So let me go ahead and enter 10. I type in 10. I continue playing. Oops. I press enter. Now it gives me an error because 10 is a string. It cannot multiply a non-integer type with a float. So I have to go ahead and update my code to say all of these should be an integer. So that way I can cast that integer. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
now you're having a nested loop. I think, everyone, you said something.
No, it does.
Okay. So
Mhm.
we can do it that way. Otherwise, we'll have to go in and cast each one of these prices. Because each time our price is going to be a string. But we don't want it to be a string. So what we need to do is two things. We need to, oopsie, that's not what I wanted. We need to convert that to an integer. And it's always a good idea to enter a prompt. So let's go ahead and say enter your price. Now, when that comes up, we're going to know exactly what we are entering. Okay, that's what you want your users to have an idea. If I press play, it's asking enter your price because I have that in there. Now my price is 200. Enter. Tax is $6. And the new cost, yeah, we're just printing that out. Does this help? Does this make sense?
Yeah. Maybe the maybe it's better to have the data type as float for price.
Excellent, even better. To have it as float for price, we can go ahead and try. Maybe I can ask you, during your free time to try to get the information for tax. Let's go ahead and say tax string, if I can spell correctly. Enter tax. Now we're going to prompt them for a tax. Tax should be equal to float. And within that float, we want to get the input. And the prompt we're going to use is tax string. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Maybe not state. Let's try sales tax. So sales tax, this value is going to go in here, which is pretty much this string. So your sales tax is going to be prompted. And then now we can go ahead and multiply this float and that float. We could do the same thing here, convert that to also a float. We can even go ahead and change this to have dollar value at the front. And then let's say this is your tax. And put a dollar value in front as well.
Mhm.
We execute that. It's asking for the price. Let's go back to our old price of 100 and the tax of 0.03. And now it tells us your price is 100, your sales tax is 0.3, total tax is that. and the tax is that. So that would be a simple calculation of how you want to do it. If you want to set up, instead of doing tax, you want to change that to tips, you can go ahead and change it to tips. That's totally fine. And let's go ahead and say tips, so you can know how much you're tipping the guys that are going to be working or serving you your food, even if it's soya or if it's achu. You want to make sure you also tip them. So my price here is 200. The tip is sorry, I still have enter sales tax instead of tip. Let's make that 10%. Now, if it's 10% tip for a $200 meal, you should give them $220. I need to change this.
This is very interesting. I guess maybe during the week I will try to see, okay, if I am in Maryland, how much is the tax there or the tips there? Like, that's where you might start, I don't know, is it curl? Like scraping different tax, sales tax in different states and bringing your code. So if someone were to be in Texas, this is how much they might pay for taxes.
Exactly, and you can create a fun application, put it out there. Everybody can just open your app and tap it and tell you what the tax is.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
that's the power of Python. When we say Python is powerful and fun, you know, I was going to start by showing you guys a bunch of scripts that would be, I mean, it's simple to read. If you go in here, I mean, we're definitely 5 minutes over time. But let me make sure I go through this real quick before I share that with you. But that's how you get user input. So at the end of the day, what we wanted to capture today, we talked about values and data types. We talked about working with variables, how we use statements and comments, expression and operators, getting user input. And all along, we have been trying to debug the errors that we have. Debugging will take a lot of your time. It's something that you have to be patient. That's why I tell you, take your breaks. If you find yourself banging your head on the wall, walk away, come back, and you'd see that, you know, you have your aha moment and everything will be fine. But is there anything in here that we feel like we are not 100% confident, or maybe 80, 90%? Everybody good so far?
Yeah, I'm good.
Excellent, excellent. Gilbert, how are you doing?
Yeah,
Is it overwhelming?
it's really overwhelming. But
Okay, good. So again, understand this.
yeah,
We are like those new children that were just giving birth in the hospital at the maternity. We still cannot really speak English. We are just crying. Everything. If you're hungry, you cry. If you want to sleep, you cry. If they give you food, you cry. Whatever, you just cry. But eventually, when you go through this a few times this week, try and make mistakes. Get comfortable making mistakes. The only way you're going to, the best way you're going to learn is by making mistakes. Other ways you can learn is by reading, you know, and so on. But those mistakes will help you not make them twice. So pretty much that's all we had to do today. And whatever questions you have, reach out to me again. I'll be very willing to help you. Otherwise, thank you. At this point, let me go ahead and show you guys some fun stuff that you might like. So there are a bunch of scripts in here that we'll definitely look at as we walk through our way. But I wanted us to look at this weather function. If I open that up, this is what it looks like. It's a simple Python code, less than 30 lines of code. But what it's going to do is, I want you to pay attention to line 6. Line 6 is going to prompt you to enter the name of a city. Okay. In order for me to run this, I'll have to go ahead and open a new terminal. When I open a new terminal, if I want to run a Python script, what I have to do first, I have to switch to Python. When I type Python, it takes me now to the Python ideally. So again, how did we say we're supposed to write that? We can either type it in there, Python and lab 11. Oops. Oh, I lied. I have to exit out of it. Python, lab 11. Oops, I cannot spell. And the function. Oh, never mind. Let's try Python 3. Ah, that's why I need to go into the lab and then get lab 11. There you go. All right, so this is going to execute that script. This is what the script looks like. It's going to go in, import a certain library, and this is a function. It does that function, and then it comes in and executes all of that. So when I execute it on here by pressing enter, it asks me to enter a city. Let's try Limbe. I enter Limbe, tells me today's forecast is light rain, minimum temperature, maximum temperature. Okay, that's as easy as running that script. That's what that script does.
My goodness, I'm loving this now.
So if I want to retype it, I just use the up arrow. It goes back to the last code. Okay, it's going into the lab folder and pulling that Python file. If I want to figure out what's the weather in New York, I go ahead and type in New York. There, the forecast is clear sky. That's the temperature. So let's see if we can figure out what's going on in Atlanta. Atlanta also has clear skies. And let's see what's going on in Detroit. Detroit is scattered clouds. Yep, sounds like us. So this is just some fun stuff you can do. And by the time we're done with this, we're going to be able to do rock, paper, scissors, check the decades. The decades is really easy. I can open that for you to check. In here, you're asking a user to enter their age. How old are you? When they enter their age, we have a variable that's going to take that age and divide by 10. It's going to give you just the whole number. That's how many decades there are. And then it's going to give you the remainder to give you how many years are left when it's divided by 10. And it will print it out. In order for us to do that as well, I can go ahead and let me clear the screen. Clear the screen by typing clear. Pretty much what it does is it's just going to scroll up or scroll down. If I do in the Python 3 again, and lab 2, I think, decades. How old are you? Let's try 18. You're 1 decade and 8 years old. And you can run it again for someone that's 69 or 76, 7 decades and 6 years old. So you don't have to get them calculating it each time. You write the code once, you run it always, and you get your answer. Question, Aaron.
Okay, the one I'm going to ask, it looks funny, but what is, again, you know, I'm from a different world. When you're saying it's script, right?
Yes.
Is this just a program or a function? What is the difference between that? And then number 2, just because I'm very picky, in this one that you just ran,
yes,
maybe a conditional statement. That way, if it's just 1 decade, right?
You
then
have
you
that in singular.
Yes.
Exactly. So again, that's something that, you know, as we keep going through, we can start adding it onto our functionality. If you notice all the labs, you know, I was going to ask you to calculate that. I'll definitely give you, and I'll ask you to make changes to that once we start working with conditional statements, right? So you can go in, and I'll also ask you to try to make it so that I don't have to run the program every time, so that it can keep looping. So when we get to those stages, we're all getting there slowly but surely. But for now, we are still at lab 1. I don't want to show you lab 1 because that's probably what I'm going to ask you to do for your homework.
Okay.
But yeah, all of those are all things that we'll go through, whether you want to play a game of dice or rock, paper, scissors, or you want to get random numbers, expenses, loans, application, contacts, and so on. We're all going to have fun doing all these things. Sounds good? What questions do you have before we call it?
This is the one that we should all take off and just do Python like for 1 week or 2. I can't wait for the next one.
Oh my
This
goodness.
is so interesting.
So it's easy. So what I can do then,
Ah.
I'll leave you guys with a few questions here and there, right? On your homework, by the end of the day, I'm going to go ahead and add a quiz. Your weekly quiz. It's probably going to be something really straightforward. Okay, maybe ask you to write a program that prompts you to welcome a user, right? Something as easy as that. And again, just this practice is what's going to really help you out. You don't have to. You have to make mistakes and then learn from the mistakes. Everybody has access to PyCharm. You can go ahead and type all of those, and from there, you can see what we get. Sounds good?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me give you a third one. Write a program that prompts for Celsius and convert it to temperature and change it to Fahrenheit. Let's see how that goes for you guys. So I think 3 is good enough for now. Hopefully it doesn't scare you away from coming to class. Whether you do it or not, we're all going to get it done. And let's say ungraded. Yeah, no. If it's going to be 3 angst questions, then I should probably add one more. That way, yeah, that's fine. That's 3. 3 is good. Let's leave it at 100. So I'll set the due date for our next class. Time is optional. So everything looks good. And it's now assigned for you guys. You should be able to see that in your week 1 assignment. Sounds good?
Yeah. So once we write the program, we just hold it until.
Yeah, once you write the program, you can reply. There's usually a comment on there that you should be able to click on, and it will tell you once you've done, you should go ahead and also check that you have submitted it. When you submit it in the folder, you can paste your code in there, attach it, and that'll be good. So you can be proud of yourself, after you get everything done. It's good exercise. It's good exercise. And the things that you really see is your small typos and your commas that you forget, the things that you need to do, and so on. It will only help you get better. That way, you're not sweating like that guy in that short video that I see that my first day in work after I have 20 years experience.
Sweating is good.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, but good practice. Have fun with it. If you want to start right away, you want to do it later on, that's totally fine. But let me know if you have any questions or any issues. All right.
Thank you.
You are very welcome. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see you guys next week. For those that have PowerShell, we'll be back again tomorrow talking about PowerShell.
Tomorrow?
Yes, PowerShell is tomorrow at 2 p.m.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
You're talking about like the Bourne shell, like Linux kind of thing?
PowerShell is the cousin of Bash, which is Born Again Shell.
Born Again Shell, exactly.
Yes. So Born Again Shell is used for Linux and Mac, but PowerShell, which was predominantly for Windows, is also now used for all of them. They've improved it, and you also use it on the cloud. Just like we are doing Anaconda on the cloud. If I went into Azure portal I should be able to jump into the shell and write the same commands. It should be just fine. So let's see if I can try this out here. Will it let me? Oh, it sent it to my email. Never mind. Let's see if I can retrieve that real quick. Yeah, that's something that I wanted to do earlier, but I totally forgot. I wanted to show you guys how to do that in the shell. Has anyone successfully run it in the shell yet?
I know that AWS has a shell. That's the one I've used for the cloud.
Yes, so again, when you get on the shell, you can always switch whichever one. So let's see if the Azure shell, it definitely does have PowerShell, and you should be able to use Python on here. So right here, you can see that's the shell command. Let's click on that. You can also download it and use it locally. So come on, come on, come on, come on. All right, so right here, you can choose whether you want to use PowerShell or Bash. We're going to stay with PowerShell. That's good. Let's go ahead and do Python version. This version, let me drag this up so we can see clearly. Version 3.9, so I can go ahead and just type Python 3. Now I'm in Python. Everything that we've been doing, I can go ahead and write it in here. Print, or let's say name should be equals to input, and let's call it enter your name. It's asking me to enter my name, and let's say Vitus. So that's an interactive shell per se. Okay. So again, still the same thing. We can go ahead and do 3 plus 7 should give us 10, and so on and so forth. Or if I have a file that, I'd already written in here, I don't have one, I could go ahead and just locate that file and execute the script, and it should execute just fine. So the file I have, I can create a resource, dump it in a folder, and just call that folder, just call that file in that folder. It will be able to do all of this. So in our next class, I'll go ahead and do that a little bit, and also play around with Visual Studio Code. Like I said, these are all different ways that you can use Python. It's the same Python that we learned. It's the same syntax everywhere, but there are many different ways you can use it. You can use it on Azure, on AWS, Google Cloud Platform. You can use it in Visual Studio Code, whatever tool. It's the same Python that we've learned the basics. You can write your code and execute it all over the place. That's why it's very portable and versatile. Sounds good? All right, so we've gone way over time today. I'm sorry about that. We get to see you guys again next week, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you. You
Oh,
too.
very welcome.
Very interesting
Everyone
class.
should enjoy the Holy Week.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye-bye. Let's stop the recording.